This is Nibbler. He is my California kingsnake. He's about 10 years old. I adopted him when he was already older, about 7 or even 6 years old when I got him. And unfortunately, as it does sometimes when you get old, he has a cancerous tumor that has grown near his cloaca and already wrapped around his tailbone and eaten away some of the tailbone matter. He had been seen by the vet. He had been diagnosed. It is cancerous. It is aggressive, and it has grown in size in the last couple of weeks. There's nothing we can do about it. We can't surgically remove it because of how close it is to the cloaca. We're just keeping an eye on him. As long as he eats, he poops, and he seems to be okay. We're just gonna focus on his quality of life. But this video isn't really about that, about his cancer. It's more about his life, more about kingsnakes, California kingsnakes. They are the longest kingsnake in the US. You'll find them actually they're not that big depending on how you feed them, how they're taken care of. He is unusually big for a male. I thought he was a female at the start, but now he is a male. He's close to 4.5 feet long, but most males don't get that long. Some females don't even get that long either. So whoever had him as a hatchling, they took real good care of him and they fed him a lot. He is a very good snake. They have a very good personality. And he noticed I'm touching him. They're very smart. I will give him different things inside. I put different things inside his enclosure, and he notices. He would explore. He would try to figure out if it's something he would like this bin of cocoa husk. I put it in there so that he really likes to dig in it. He likes to sleep in it, so he gets to have that, as well as some fake grass at the top that sometimes he likes to crawl on. He has a cardboard box as a hide if he wants to get out the cocoa husk, and another hide on the warm side. This is his other hide, and a big water bowl that he likes to soak in. He doesn't have any substrate ever since he was this bump showed up. I didn't want to risk it, so I removed. He used to have cocoa husk, as you can see, some brown here. I try to remove as much as I can, but this came from the bin. But he used to have that substrate all around his enclosure, and he loved it. Unfortunately, with his disease, I have to keep his cage as clean as possible. So I have to get everything out and disinfect it and whatnot every couple of weeks or so. We don't know how long he'll live. Probably he might not make it till next year for sure, due to how fast this thing is growing. But anyways, California kingsnakes. As babies, they could be a little nippy. They're known to be a little aggressive, food aggressive. They're a little bit defensive too. I never had that issue with him. He has always been a good eater. He still is. He loves to eat. The only time he doesn't eat is when he's in shed. And even then, he'll think about it. He is very calm. I can pet him on the head and he will never give me issue. He's actually my favorite snake, to be honest. He's the reason why I was convinced that snake keeping was something that I want to keep going. He was one of my first snakes that I've kept. My first one is a ball python. He's my second one. And I didn't enjoy my ball python, not much. So he's the one who kind of brought it all back to me and convinced me to keep going. He's very curious. Probably thinking if I'm going to feed him today. So they have a very good appetite. Your king snakes in general are good eaters. I mean, some of them, like the gray banded king snake, might prefer lizards and geckos and frogs. But the California king snakes eat everything. They eat rodents, they eat frogs, they eat other snakes. They'll take anything they can get. So you should not have any issue right from the bat feeding them frozen thawed pinkies if they're babies. You should not need to feed them live because they have such a good appetite. He has a cataract on one of his eye. He's such a good boy. So for the warm side, 88 degrees should be good enough. You don't have to raise it up to 90. Some care sheets would recommend that you do. I had it both ways. I had it 90, I had it 88. He used it on both times, and then he'll get off it when he's done. He usually spends most of his time on the cool side anyway. So I would set it up at the 90 to 88, just because he doesn't seem to need it too much. Room temperature on the cold side, 75 to 77. They can handle cold temperatures just fine, or even a little bit warmer at 80 degrees. They don't seem to mind, but they prefer cooler if you can give it to them. They're easy overall. If anything, they're probably the next best starter snake pet to have next to the corn snake. Hey, buddy. Hey, Nibby. Hi, buddy. I know. He's such a good boy. And if you raise your king snake right, you socialize it, you spend time with it, you will have a tame snake just like Nibbler. He was just like this when I adopted him. His owner couldn't keep him anymore for any reason. I don't know what or why. I guess it doesn't really matter. But what they did was the right thing, was to turn it over to the reptile store. They had nowhere to go. We don't have a reptile rescue around here. So they turned it over to a reptile store where I picked him up. You can also feed him chicklings. You can feed him, I would switch it around from mice to chicklings now and then. They will eat it. You should, it's not like a ball python where you worry if they get stuck on a certain prey item. They won't. As long as the size is perfect for them to eat, it's not too big and not too small, and they don't get overweight. They get fed once a week. You can try different things, different items. I don't know if they'll take fish though. That's another thing. It's preferred that you just feed them what's available from your local feeder store. Don't just pick up anything outside and give it to them because of parasite load and whatnot. It's just better to get it from your feeder source. I use big cheese rodents. They have chicklings, they have mice, rats of all kinds of sizes. Shipping is really reasonable and they ship fast. So he always gets what he wants. California king snakes also come in different colors. He has a chocolate brownish stripes, but many of them come in black. Some of them have very little stripes. Some of them have a lot of stripes. They call them aberrant. Some have a lot of white, which I think it's called high white. There's a high white, and there are albinos. There are just many different kinds of colors and different patterns you can pick out. But they're all the same species, and they should have the same requirement in terms of care. And they live to be about 15 years, more or less, depending on, genetics, how well you took care of it, and so forth. And they're very hardy. Just like the corn snake, they're hardy, they're healthy. You shouldn't have any issues. I never had an issue with him, ever. No shedding issue, no feeding issues, nothing. This is the only time he had to see the vet. And unfortunately, it would be the next time we go to the vet will be his very last, where I have to put him down when we get to that point. It's sad, but that's the reality of keeping animals. Sometimes you have to say goodbye, and chances are you will outlive them. It could be a dog, a cat, a hamster, whatever it is. Even cancer doesn't spare reptiles. Reptiles get cancer too. And a lot of people find it shocking when I told them my snake has cancer. My bearded dragon had cancer, and actually I had to put him down 2 weeks ago. He also had an aggressive form of cancer that was growing all over the inside and outside of his body. For reptiles, once they get to this point, if there's a lump, the only solution you have is it either all comes out or not at all. And for him, unfortunately, the vet could not remove it because of how close it is attached to his cloaca. And they have to remove the cloaca in order to get it out, and that's just not reasonable. They only have one exit and entrance, one hole. The cloaca, that's where they poop, that's where they pee, that's where they do everything in it. Without it, you might as well just not live, I guess. You can't live without it. For a snake. Same for my bearded dragon. He unfortunately grew a cancerous mass in his intestines, spreading to his liver, and there was no fixing it. There's no chemo or whatever the treatments that people get, the snakes get, that reptiles get, because of the lack of advancement in vet medicine for reptiles. And it is a shame. It really is. We're in 2021, and yet we have little to no treatments for reptile cancer. And it's on the rise. More and more people are keeping them. More and more are getting cancer because they're living longer, just like our dogs and cats. But unlike our dogs and cats, reptiles are falling behind. There are no treatments. There are no other treatments other than to cut things out. Or they can try a different type of medication and whatnot. At the end of the day, it's just not as effective as dogs and cats, as well as their different bodies. These are cold-blooded animals, so healing and the way they metabolize medication and so forth is different. That's why we need more research, we need more data. People need to take their animals to the vet. If your reptile is sick, take it in. Even if it's not treatable, at least they will record it. They will talk about it in seminars. Yours could be included as a case study. Some days, this is gonna be fixable. Someday, maybe the next 50 years, we will see advancement in vet medicine for reptiles, just as we did for cats. For the longest time, when cats get sick, they were not treated effectively as they would for dogs. They were looking at the cat body the same way as they look at dogs. So a lot of treatment options didn't work for cats because they're cats. But that's no longer the case. Now we even have cat veterinarians, so go figure, right? Anyways, that's my rant. I hope you enjoyed this video. California king snakes are great. I may get another one someday when he passes. I'm not sure yet. And I highly recommend them. Don't let the nippiness and the aggressiveness of a hatchling scare you away. With enough time and patience and work, they will calm down, just like Nibbler.